previously, in different ages, the sages and yogis and mystics could meditate for thousands of years in silence. And that's, somebody tried to, there's 4 different ages, like there's 4 seasons, summer, spring, winter. So in the Vedic cosmology, the cycle of time, there's 4 different ages: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. They're compared to gold, silver, bronze, and iron. This age, iron, Kali Yuga. It's very dense, not very auspicious. So somebody was trying to tell me the other day that actually Kali Yuga was over and it's now Satya Yuga. So it's not time for chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it's time for silent meditation. I said, have you been outside recently? Have you read a newspaper or, turned on the news? Or it's Kali Yuga, but there it is. Okay. Let's get, we need the clock. I was speaking at our Laguna Beach temple, and I was thinking, man, this is a long talk. I was speaking, I thought, jeez, but it turns out that the battery was dying, and the clock was like, so even the audience, I said, I agree with you. I mean, I'm running out of stuff to say. So we've got the clock. I've got some notes. I've got my glasses. I barely have my voice, so thank you for your patience in so many ways. Om Ganatim Randasya Gyana Gana Salakaya Chakshushamilitam Gena Tazari Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadada Shivasari Guru Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Goodbye, my little friend. It's impossible for them. Can you slide me that cushion? Do you mind? Yeah, just give it a push. It's in my because I have a bad back, and this cushion sinks. We're almost ready to go. I apologize for the delay. There we go. Now, the theme, what I wanted to try to address is how do we know what we know? And how we all have a view of the world. We all have our sense of right and wrong, good, valuable, true, important, less important, valuable, not. We all have that rattling around in our head. Otherwise, how do we even move or make any kind of decision in life? And often, especially in the age of Kali, I remember being a kid in school. And believe it or not, I was young at one point. At elementary school, and we divided up by teams, and the coach said, or the teacher, whatever, who's Republican, who's Democrat. That's how we divided into two, the main American political parties. And my parents were Republicans, so I said, I had no idea what a Republican was. Was it a country? Was it? I told somebody one time we're vegetarian. They said, oh, is that a political party? That was in Alabama many years ago. They've changed. But I had no idea what it was, but it was just, that's what my parents were, so okay, that's what I was, just went along with it. So there's so many things we accept, but why? They say that one of the things in management is to ask why 5 times. Well, why did you do that? Well, why did you do that? Well, because of this. Well, why did you do that? Well, because of this. And as you ask, you get closer to what's really going on here. What are the motivations? So, who was it who said? I think it's Socrates, that most people lead lives what is it? Unexamined lives. They lead unexamined, and most people. Well, that's just the way we've always done it. And a police officer, parish it happens to you. I was speeding, I have to admit, coming from our Las Vegas temple to it's just long, straight line, and it's a long story, but I was speeding. Policeman pulled me over. The police lady actually pulled me over to give me a ticket. Saw that I was dressed like this. She said, "Damn," frankly. She said, "Last time I gave," I said, "You're a monk." I said, "That's right." She said, "I'm not going to give you a ticket." I said, "Thanks, but why?" She said, "Last time I gave a ticket to a nun, I had bad luck for a month." It's true. So she let me go. And as I was, they have some parting words. As I was pulling out, she said to me, what was it? She said, "Hey, now no more transcending. Watch the speedometer." I thought it was pretty funny. She's a nice lady, So how did we get off on that? But the point is that, we just do things. And why do we do them? The unexamined life. And well, we've always done it that way. And so, but let's think about it for a moment. So that's what's rattling around in my brain. The motivation behind this. Who are we? Let's get down to the core of the issue. One of our great teachers, Jiva Goswami, he says that knowledge starts with a simple conception. How do we know what we know? Where do we start? We got to start somewhere. And he says there's the seer, the seen, and the act of seeing. We can all agree with that. We have a sense of self. We have an internal world. Somebody pinches me, I feel it. Somebody pinches you, you don't feel it. I don't feel it. So there's my internal reality, my internal experience, and there's an outside, I'm here, you're there. And there's an interaction, seer, seen, and act of seeing. Okay, well that we can pretty much agree on. Like who is it? Who said? Descartes. I think, therefore I am. So we have an internal world. So, and then we're interfacing with an external world. And based on that experience, we build up a sense of ourself and a sense of the world and goals and values in life. But do we really think about what creates those things and what those things are based on? Okay. So and another theme or element in this mix, which we'll try to unite the two later on, is that, what is there a difference? And our teaching says that there is. Are we just a sophisticated animal? Are we at the top of the evolutionary chain? Are we simply well-trained monkeys? What are we? Coming from Darwin's theory and all that. So what are we? And the Vedas, our textbook, and we'll get into why the Vedas matter in a moment, or why to have any faith in them. One of the aphorisms, or one of the statements in the Vedas is Atato Brahma Jigyasya, that now, in the human form of life, it's time to ask questions about Brahman. And what it's saying is that we have evolved, according to the Vedic theory, the wheel of samsara, birth after birth. We've been all around, to the highest planet, to the lowest, and everything in between. We've been, dogs, hogs, cats, kings. We've been all around, lifetime after life, and that's a whole other class. But hello, how are you? But accepting that now there's something unique about this human form of life. And the Vedas say we can ask, dogs are eating, animals, dogs, cats, whatever, we're also eating. I mean, we may be a little more polished. Maybe we do it with a silver spoon or chopsticks or, in a fancy so-called fancy restaurant. But they're eating, we're eating. We're sleeping, they're sleeping. Maybe we're sleeping. There was a friend of mine who had a motorized bed. Yeah, had a motorized bed. So, maybe we have a motorized bed with a sea view. Okay, fine. Somebody else is sleeping under a tree. But, once you're asleep, it's the same thing. So it's not a unique, it's a commonality. Eating, sleeping, mating. Fish. Some types of fish have a sense of territory. I'm an American, I'm Venezuelan, I'm whatever I am. And, we're very, very proud of that. But even fish in the water, some of them will mark off territory. They'll, case out, march the property line or whatever you want to call it. So even, dogs, they're the immigration department. They're bark, 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 bark. Who are you? Why are you here? Dogs do good things too. I'm not criticizing. But the point is that it's not unique that I have a sense that I'm American and I've got the motherland. And it's not such a big deal. It's just polished propensities that all animals have. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, So is that all we are, as Prabhupada used to say? Is a polished dog or cat? Is that all we are? So, again, a unique feature, according to the Vedas, is that we have a sense of who am I? And where am I going? And what is the purpose of life? We have a sense of time, a deeper sense of time. My Guru Maharaj, my teacher, gives an example that suppose a bag of rice falls off the back of, in India they have so many bullock carts, so it falls off a truck, whatever. But a burlap bag of rice falls off, and when it falls off, it splits open. And the driver doesn't know, he moves on, right? So a little squirrel will come and take a few grains, mouse will come and take a few grains, and they're gone. But a human being is walking down, suppose it's a man, and he'll fill up one pocket. And you'll start to walk away and think, hey, what about tomorrow? He'll fill up the other pocket. Say, well, what about next month? He'll fill up the two back pockets, And he'll think, wait a minute, when I get home, my wife's going to say, you dummy, why didn't you take the whole bag? So he's got a sense of future. And even more sophisticated than that, because, squirrels hide nuts for the winter, I think, isn't it? They can make some storage. But where did it all come from? It's the either-or question, they say in philosophy. Either this whole world happened by chance, it's just random combination operating under the laws of physics, and there's no rhyme or reason to the thing, and there's no purpose. Anything designed has a purpose. They study archaeology. They go back and they do a dig at some site and they find pot shards and they put them together and say, oh, they must have had a concept of an afterlife, and oh, they must have been agrarian, oh, they had some, pecking order of a hierarchy of a king, and all based on, they put together the little remnants of that. It's 90% speculation. But they have some, by looking at the function, by looking at the form, they can figure out the function. If there's a particular form, then there must be a function for it. Like we know, well, this is a clock, this is a a cup, these are glasses. So by the form, you can understand the function. Human intelligence, in the esoteric or spiritual sense, is meant to think, well, wait a minute. There's patterns, there's order. Maybe there's a design for this world. And if there's a design for the world, what is the follow-on from that? Anyone want to help me out? You can guess. We'll still be friends. One is, who said that? Yeah, way to go. Who designed it? And if somebody designed it, then guess what? Yeah, we have an obligation. We have a relationship. If you open up your mailbox and every month there's a check for $1,000, no return address, you cash it. I don't know about you. I immediately put it in the hundi or give it to our temple, to our treasurer, Dayaniti Prabhu. But if you get a check anonymously, it's coming every month in the mail, what's a logical thing to think after a while? Who's it from? And hey, wait, is there an obligation? Isn't it in contractual law if you cash a check, based from that can be called a legal acceptance if you cash the check. So, well, I'm getting the sun, I'm getting the moon, I'm getting water, I'm getting air. If we think about it, Srila Prabhupada, my teacher, my guru, was here in, the bicentennial? When was that? 1976, yeah, 1976, 70, yeah, whatever. And, there's all this advertisement that it's the independent celebrating. He said, actually, nobody's independent. What they should be celebrating is our dependence. We're completely dependent on the mercy of God at every moment. That's intelligence. So the point is to look, one of the things that makes us different from animals is to look out and think, wait a minute. At least to consider there's order, there's pattern, there's symmetry. They talk laws of physics, laws of economics, well, law means what? If there's a law, what is there? There's a lawmaker. 2 points for you, Balaram, you got it twice. Means there's a lawmaker. So, human form of life means also they have the concept of, I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but we're all going to die. This parade is coming to an end. Somebody may live this long, somebody may live. There's a famous conversation, again in our Vedic literature, and it's Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, and he's asking Yudhisthira Maharaj. Yudhisthira Maharaj is one of the Mahajans, or one of the deeply realized propounders of truth. Anyway, there it is. So the Lord of Death, Yamaraj, one of the principles of this world, asks this noble king, Yudhisthira Maharaj, and says, what is the most wonderful thing in this world? Think about it for a minute. Grand Canyon. I don't know. Okay, Krishna. You can say Krishna. Okay, if we can get a little esoteric. But, that can be seen and experienced by everyone. See, he's a devotee, a transcendentalist. And you make my point that, anyway, of seeing a higher thing. But the point is that Yudhisthira Maharaj responds that the most wonderful thing in this world is that all around us we see everybody's dying. It's inevitable, as sure as death. But what do we think in the back of our brain? I'm not going to die. I'll live forever. I forget, I think it's the poet William Carlos Williams. He says, I always knew that man was mortal, but I always thought an exception would be made for me. So, but to have that sense, well, wait a minute. Do I live in an ordered universe? Is there a designer behind it? If there's a designer, I have a relationship. I have both a dependence and perhaps an affectionate, supportive, loving relationship. That's a possibility. And this life, is this all I am? I matter and I run for 60, 70, 80 years if I'm lucky, and then I drop dead. What's going on here? So to ask those questions differentiate us from simply animals. We have a culture that simply tells us how to eat, how to sleep, how to mate, and how to defend. And generally speaking, if there's some knowledge, it's simply about how to improve those things. How to build a faster car or whatever it may be. But all it is an amplification of those four things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And that's what fills our head. So the Vedas say, hang on a minute. Let's analyze how we know what we know. What are the sources of what we know? And there's different evidences, different sources of evidence. The primary source of evidence that everyone uses are their senses. The Vedas say there's 4 defects. There's 4 flaws in our means of gaining knowledge. There's 4 things that we should consider before we think, I know this. People say, show me God. Well, what's your ability to see? You know, how one man kept saying to Prabhupada, as far as I can see. Well, as far as I can see. And after saying it 5 or 6 times, Prabhupada said, sir, that is my point. How far can you see? Anybody here know what's going on the other side of the wall? It's so, I mean, how far is that? It's like, I mean, maybe somebody who's got X-ray vision, or got a baby, what do they want to do, a baby monitor with a camera on the other side. But nobody knows what's going on the other side. When we look at the sun, how big is the sun? Look at it. I mean, you little kids, they'll put their hand up and block out the sun. I remember playing with my son one time, it was many, many years ago. And he was 3 years old or 2 years old. And he was hiding from me. You know how he was hiding? He was standing behind the branch of a tree. I mean, his head was above his body, but he couldn't see me. He thought, well, you can't see me. He thought it was an equal equation. The sun looks like a small dot. You can put your hand in front of him, but we know anybody Googled it recently, what the size of the sun is compared to the earth? I mean, it's so many times bigger. So one of the disqualifications is that our senses are very limited. I mean, I put a prism up to a light. All of a sudden, there's so many colors that we couldn't see. I blow a dog whistle. You're all fine, and every dog in the neighborhood starts howling, because it's a higher frequency that hurts their ears. So, okay, how far can we see? Our senses are very, very limited. So that's one thing. Another one, let me see here. What did I say about it? There's a tendency to be illusioned. Even you see properly. Half the time we can't see sufficiently or properly or fully. But let's suppose, just for a moment, we're actually seeing properly. But even what we see, we have a tendency to be illusioned. Like just now, I was driving over to the temple. I'm going down I was going down the side alley here, and I thought I had to stop because there was a car coming at me. You know what it was? It was 2 people on those little scooters, and they had a headlight, and one was here, the other was here. I could easily get past, but from a distance, it looked like the headlights of 2 cars. 2 lights next to each other. I thought, there's a car. I got to slow down. So I was seeing the lights, but my conception of what that was. So we may be able to see, we have a tendency to be illusioned. Another defect is we make mistakes. My favorite is that there was it's a true story. You can Google it. How did it go? There's NASA. The U.S. Space Agency, whatever it's called. What's this? National something for some space agency. They're sending all the stuff up in the sky all the time. And they did a joint project with the EU, the European Union has a space program. So they combined together. And the cost, I could make this stuff up if I wanted to. The cost was something like $500 million. I mean, that's a lot of money. So, and they sent the thing off, took off, went into orbit, did everything. I think they were going to Mars or Venus or somewhere, right? Off it goes. $500 million of our money, your money, taxpayers' money. We're sending back signals. Beep, 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 beep. And then after a certain point of time, it just stopped. No sound, no noise, no connection. They had no idea what happened to it. It just zing, off it went into outer space. So it's a true story. So that, naturally, they analyze, well, something went wrong. What went wrong, lest we do it again. You know what they found out? Because it was the European, EU, and USA. And there's so many teams working on the thing. There's this team, that team, you can imagine. Hundreds of people working on this thing, different teams. Turns out that one of the teams that worked on the trajectory, the arc of the thing, one of the teams, the American team, was working in inches and feet and yards and miles. And the EU team was on the metric system. And they didn't merge. They didn't line up their numbers to be the same. So the trajectory was often the thing just zing. Well, whoops, won't do that again. So we have a tendency to make mistakes. I mean, I could give so many examples, but I want to get to some other points. But we have a tendency to make mistakes. So we have imperfect senses. We have a tendency to be illusioned. We have a tendency to make mistakes. And on top of all of that, we're very proud. I mean, not you folks, me, certainly to some degree, but we think that, oh, well, it's like this. Or, that's one, no problem. You got two more. You got two more, don't worry, you got two more. So we think we have a tendency to cheat. That even though we have all these other defects, we present our knowledge as being something significant. Favorite example of mine, Stephen Hawking. You know Stephen Hawking? Everybody knows Stephen Hawking. Well, almost everybody knows him. He's the famous physicist and, cosmic thinker about, and he wrote his book, what is it, A Short History of Time? And, I mean, people are thinking about the world, they read that thing. Swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. Shortly before his death, he's gone now. I mean, he may be that little kid. Who knows where Stevie is now, with reincarnation. But shortly before, I don't know the exact time, but within a year of his leaving this world, before his death, renounced the whole thing. He said, you know what, folks? I made a miscalculation. It's wrong. Everything you believe, my short history of time, it's wrong. I blew it. I changed my mind. I got a different theory now. So, okay, at least he was honest about it. But we believe so many things. But for so many years, I'm right, I was this and that. So I remember, and I'm not making fun of the particular place. It could have happened anywhere. I was in Tijuana, and I was getting direction. We were getting some work done for the temple. Some marble, actually. The marble that's in this little donation box and things like that. We were getting some marble work done. And I had an address, but I didn't know exactly. I got to a certain point, and then I didn't know what I was doing. So there were 3 people standing on the corner, nice people. And when you don't know where you are, why don't you ask those who are standing next to you who live there? It's probably a good idea. So I said, hey, ¿dónde está esta calle? Or whatever my broken Spanish was. And they all pointed. One guy pointed this way. Another guy pointed this way. And then I swear to you, all 3 of them pointed in different directions. And when they saw that they were all pointing, they laughed. I mean, they were embarrassed. And they said, to tell you the truth, we have no idea. We just didn't want to disappoint you. I mean, it was kind of sweet on one hand, But we have so many theories. I think this, I think that, in my opinion. Well, what is the value of your opinion in the ultimate issue? If we have, we've got modern, whatever you may call it. Sure, I've got fallible senses, but I've got a telescope. I've got an we're down to, what is it, quarks? Are we smaller than quarks? Where are we at now? It must be something. They must have found something smaller than a quark. Neurino is the same size. Neutrino? It's bigger? Okay. So, but anyway, I mean, they're down. For what it's worth, the Vedic literature is, what is it, an Anu? And a little bit bigger is a Paramanu? Anyway, I mean, they've got Vedic time down. Vedic literature, written over 5,000 years ago. They used to say 1,500 years ago, then they said 2,500 years ago. I think they've moved the record up to 3,500. They keep moving it back. We say 5,000 years ago. But whatever. Even take 1,500 years ago. Take 2,000 years ago. They had time in the Vedic literature calculated. If you're ever, the sun is coming through a window or a screen, and if you're sleeping or something, you can see those little particles that float up. You ever seen that? We've all. Vedic literature has time down to the amount of time it takes the sun to cross over that. We measured how long it takes to go around the earth, or they had it down so refined, and it goes up from the tirthas, muhurtas, it goes all the way up to, one exhalation of Mahavishnu. So it's profound knowledge. But now how did we get off on that? How far do we know? So if I see, I think, I believe, if you go down to it, oh, that's what I was going to say. So, we say, we've amplified it. Sure, I have fallible. My eyes are not so great, but I've got an electronic microscope. I can see all the way down to, wait a minute, is it the Hubble telescope? It's out there in space. The mirror got bent. They had to fix it, So, but Prabhupada said, my spiritual master said, imperfection times imperfection times imperfection, compare it to 0 times 0 times 0, what will you get? If you take an imperfect object and it's made by an imperfect person with imperfect senses, somewhere along the line it becomes perfect. Mathematically. What to speak of logically. So, okay, you've multiplied our imperfections, our tendency to cheat, our tendency to be illusioned, tendency to make mistakes. We've multiplied it multiple times. We can spend more time, but I'll say one last thing. People say, well, we've got accumulated knowledge. It's built over time. We stand on the shoulders of previous giants. Each generation adds a little more to the stockpile of knowledge, and we are getting closer to the truth. Sounds good, doesn't it? You've got a point there. When I was a kid, I forget, maybe somebody can help me out, but for pole vaulting, over the thing, over the pole, I think the record was like 14 feet. Anybody know? You got any? Something like that. And they've increased it. Better poles, better training, fiberglass instead of wood. They've refined the thing. And I think they're up to maybe 16 feet. Hey, let's say 18. Let's go whole bore, 21 feet. By progression of knowledge, they're making advancement. Great. Are they ever going to be able to pole vault to the moon? What do you think? Just run fast enough? Acme jet shoes? It's not going to happen. So even our incremental improvements come to a limit. And if you look at any field of knowledge, it comes to a limit. It will expand, but it's not going to get to the point of understanding everything perfectly. It's limited. It's good. Hey, I got a pacemaker, to tell you the truth. I'm happy for, we're using a microphone. Many of you, if none of us, if we're all just walking with if the wheel had never been invented, even you want to go, what is it, in sync with the environment. You got to come on, whether you came on a skateboard or a scooter or a bicycle, you still needed the wheel. So, but we're never going to go beyond this material world. If there is a higher dimension working on spiritual laws, our material laws, material knowledge, material insight is not going to get us there. And that's just the honest truth. So, here's our point. The point is, there's two types of knowledge, according to the Vedas. There's ascending and descending. Ascending is empiric cultivation of knowledge based on sense perception. It's limited. The other type is called was it Avaroha, and what's the other one? Aroha. So yeah, who said that? Way to go. Thanks. Glad you're here. So there's cumulative knowledge that we can build up, which has a limit, as we've described. What about descending knowledge? I'll give you an example, and we've given it before, but it'll do. Suppose before I sat on this seat, some mischievous, well, it could be an adult too, but let's just say a mischievous person had poured a big, clear super glue on this seat. And unknowing fool that I am, I sat down on it. And now I am firmly affixed to this seat. Now, here's the question, and don't call out the answer. Well, the devotees, you know the answer. Of course, you're all devotees of sorts. So, but let's just say this. So I want to shake hands with you. But, hey, I'm glued here, man. How far can I shake hands with him or not? given the fact that I'm glued on this seat. Now, some people are saying no. Do we have... I'm limited. Can it be done or can't it be done? We have some no advocates. Do we have any yes advocates? We do. How is that? Defend your answer. If you come up, if you step up, then it becomes very easy. We can shake hands, no problem. If you take I am limited, but if you take the initiative and come to me, then it's no problem. So if we accept, and the arrogance, I actually looked up the word pride just for fun in Oxford's. We'll get back to this shaking hands business in a minute. But let me just find it here. Where is it? I had the definition of pride, but maybe I forgot it. Well, there it is. Here we go. From Oxford's. Deep satisfaction with one's own achievements. You know, someone's full of themselves. So, this is one of the several definitions of pride. Deep satisfaction with one's achievements. And the fact of the matter, I watched some kids one time out my window, and there was a lot next to where and there was a pile. They were doing some construction, excavation, and there was a pile of dirt. And there were some kids. I mean, we've all done this as kids. And one of the kids had a paper hat, a crown, probably from McDonald's, who knows, whatever. But he had this, and they were playing King of the Hill. Whoever had the crown was on the top of the hill, and the whole idea was whoever could push the kid, whoever's on the top of the hill, got to sit on, got to wear the crown. So everybody's trying, they're trying to get on top. They're trying to be the king. Well, I know this, I know that. But how far do they know, and how long will they stay there? How long? Even, I don't mean to embarrass the guy, but where's Steve Jobs now? I mean, he was one of the changers of the world. Where's Stevie now? Anybody know? Who knows where he is? Everything comes to an end. Everybody has to give it up. You can't take it with you. So, what's there really to be proud? You didn't make it. You didn't create it. Well, this is my house. Well, did you make the wood? Did you make the steel? Did you make the concrete? Prabhupada was on a walk with there's fools that are rich, fools that are poor. I'm not, it's not an economical, calculation. But there was a man walking, you can hear the tape. There's a man walking with Prabhupada, and he says to Srila Prabhupada, "Oh, I own so many glass factories all over India." And he kept saying, and the Prabhupada was talking to him, and he kept talking about his glass factories, how he's, and he was proud, very proud to the point of it blinding his sense of reality. So Prabhupada, in his duty as a teacher, had to pop his bubble. So Prabhupada said to him, "Oh, glass factories. And what is the glass made out of?" Prabhupada said, "Where did you get the sand? Where did you get the silica? Where did you get the coal or the oil to heat your furnace?" And the man was pious. He said, "Oh, from Bhagavan. Oh, from Bhagavan. From Krishna, from God." So Prabhupada said, "Oh, so you got your silica, you got your sand, you got your coal, you got your intelligence. It all came from Krishna." Then Prabhupada said, "Then you are simply a thief." The guy was shocked, But you think about it. Everything's on loan. Everything we have is on loan, and we cannot take it with us. We didn't make it, and it's on loan. So they're on a morning walk, so the conversation kind of, different people are talking. You can tell the guy's kind of had his mind blown. And then he comes back, and he kind of recovers, and he says, "Oh, but I give donations to Bhagavan, to Krishna." Prabhupada said, "Very good. Then you're just a little thief." Okay, you give 20% back. All right, we'll give you a little break there. So we're proud. All of us, our culture, our source of gaining knowledge, and our confidence in that knowledge is saturated with pride. So one of those things is excessive sense of one's own importance. Prabhupada tells a story. We're not talking about low self-esteem that is crippling, or we're not talking about that. But this blind arrogance that we think we know everything, and we can't hear, and we can't, In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's instructions to Arjuna. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks, what is knowledge? And Krishna answers. He's giving description of what all the different elements and degrees of relationships of knowledge is. But the first quality of knowledge that Krishna gives is humility. It's the key. If you want to open up the door of wisdom or knowledge, the key is honest humility, not incapacitating, low self-esteem. We're not talking about that, but honest humility. Then that's the key, Krishna says, to the beginning the process of gaining real knowledge. So Prabhupada tells a story about this proud of our own position, over excessive sense of pride. There's a king sitting on his throne, holding court. And, all the members of the court there, and people are bringing forth their appeals, their petitions, and it's all getting sorted out. So you can imagine the scene. Meanwhile, the window's open. Little mosquito buzzes in. And he lands on the shoulder of the king. And just like an ant, ants crawl. They have no idea we're having a class here, that this man is droning on, and there's a feast coming. He's just moving along. He doesn't have any idea what's going on. In the same way, the mosquito lands on this king's shoulder. And he looks out, and he thinks, look at this. Everyone's bowing down to me. Everyone's fanning me. He's feeling great. He's thinking, hey, I won the lottery, man. I'm in the palace. Everyone's, great deal. And, I guess like cats purr. So the mosquito got a little, a sense of deep contentment. Bzz, 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 bzz. The king said, oh, jeez, mosquito. It's finished, It's gone in a second. We are like that. The force of time comes, finished. You get to run for 60, 70, 80 years, if you're lucky. Maybe 90 years. So, how to gain knowledge? And the Vedic literature says, hello, my friend. We're almost done, so we'll let him go on. I'll give you one more. Because the point is, the Krishna consciousness, the Vedic literature, is a call, it is a higher calling. And it requires us to question what we believe. I'm just this body. Happiness, if I put something on my tongue and it titillates my tongue, oh, that's happiness. If my senses are pacified for a few minutes, I have an itch. Although it's polished and packaged to exploit us. This whole commercial presentation, you got to buy bigger, you got to get new, you got to, It's just so that somebody can squeeze us like you wring out a towel. Whatever energy and money and time we've got to squeeze it out after something false. Now, what was the example I was going to give? Anyway, so here's another. The point is that what if there's another reality? What if we're not just the body? What if we're the eternal soul? Well, shouldn't we at least be open to thinking about it? Or do we just, this is too much? Or do we just lock into what we're doing and blindly accept that as reality? Anybody here anyone here who believes that the Eiffel Tower exists? Let's say it that way. Raise your hand if you think the Eiffel Tower exists. I do. Okay. No Eiffel Tower doubters. Anybody here everyone here believe in the pyramids? I mean, I do. How about George Washington? Or let's say Akbar. You want to take someone from India. Now, who here has seen George Washington? Raise your hands if you've seen George. Seen Akbar recently? Who here's seen the Eiffel Tower? Could be Photoshop. I mean, I've seen, a few of us have seen, But it could be Photoshop, couldn't it? Pyramids. Hey, take a little dice, get a camel picture from the zoo, put it all together. Hey, some sand from the beach, you got there it is. Outside Cairo. Why? And we have a man who comes here, he's a professor of education. up at UCSD. And he was telling me, I forget what the number is. I don't want to completely blow your mind. I forget whether it was 98. Let's be conservative. 90% of the knowledge in our head that creates our worldview. Anybody seen an atom recently? There goes one. I mean, there goes another. But, you know, we all believe that the world's made of atoms. But, I mean, there are so many things we've never seen. Why do we believe them? Why? I'm asking. Yeah. Someone we trust told us so. I mean, when you go to school, I mean, there's so many laws of physics, laws of economics. I mean, you know, just take the laws. We have I don't mean to embarrass her, but you're studying physics, right? And there's so many. Can you even count the number of laws there are? Have you personally tested each one of them? Well, how do I know they're true? If you tried to test them all, first off, your head would explode, but you wouldn't get anything else done, right? Why do you believe them? Well, my professor said so. Well, the textbook says so. And it's like that with so many things, we cannot even count them. So it's not a question of sense perception, which is fallible, which is limited, which we have a tendency to be illusioned. We have a tendency to be so proud we believe whatever we think. Its knowledge is actually based on who do we trust. Hearing from someone we trust. So that's what we mean by descending knowledge. With that limited sense perception knowledge, how far can I reach? But when we hear from spiritual authorities, genuine sources, and it all goes back, as I said, the either-or question, that the designer behind all of this creation, we believe there's a designer, there's a design, therefore there is a designer. And if there is a designer, if I want to, what do I do if practically every time I get a upgrade with Microsoft, you know, I hate upgrading because practically everything goes squirrely for a while. And you got to figure it all out. And if you can't figure it out, what do? Yeah, you call. You know, if you don't know somebody, if your local guy doesn't know, you call the helpline. Hey, you made it, fix it. And because they made it, they know how it operates. And they can tell, oh, okay, you do A, B, C, D, and it all works fine. So the point is that if there's a designer, and there's a firm logic, it's far more logic that there was a designer than there wasn't a design. I mean, that's a whole other section, but it's profoundly logical that there's a designer behind this creation. And the idea that it all happened by, you know, random laws of physics is just farcical, frankly. Then if there's a designer, and I want to function in this world in a way that I'm happy, I want to be happy, I want to see a happy world, and knowing that there's a limit to my life, I want to do the best thing with my life. Doesn't it behoove us to ask the person who designed it? Wouldn't that be a logical thing to do? And it's not blind faith, it's not sentiment, it's not, you know, divorcing yourself from logical thinking. It's looking at the thing and saying, what I'm using now is fallible and limited. And there must be a higher knowledge, a higher source. How do I learn that? How do I hear from that? If there's a designer, how do I hear from him what he had to say? So the Vedic literature say there's three things. It's Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. There's Shastra. Everything, Shastra means scripture, revealed knowledge. My favorite example, I won't go into it, but even canned corn, which we never eat because it's thousands of years old and who knows what they've done to it. But even to heat up canned corn, there's instructions how to do it. Believe it or not. And it's a true story, so I will say it. They thought, why waste Libby's canned vegetables? Why waste this valuable advertising space telling what a trained monkey could do? You know, open can, put in saucepan, heat to taste. Okay, you know, you could train a monkey to do that. You could probably train a dolphin to do that. So Then why waste all this space? Let's use it for something else. Let's put an advertisement. They took it off. The instructions. 3 steps. You know what happened? Who can say? They were flooded with calls. People putting the metal can in microwave ovens, blowing out the power in their house, People, trying to heat it under the sun. I don't know what they were doing, But they were flooded with how to do it. So the simplest thing we can imagine comes with instructions from the manufacturer. Everything. This clock, these glasses, this cup. What to speak of this iPad? Comes with, 40 pages of instructions in 3 different languages. And this entire creation, if there's a design and a designer, it all comes with no instruction? Is that a lot? Show me the seamless logic in that. We're all supposed to stumble around and figure out reality, and we're crippled at every step with imperfect senses, tendency to be cheating, tendency to be illusion, tendency to make mistakes, and that's the best God could do? So we accept that there's revealed knowledge, Shastra, the Vedas. We accept, just so we don't blow it, there's also sadhus. There's saintly people, just like you've got the book, but you got to have a teacher, isn't it? You walk into the doctor's office, and you're going there for surgery, and he's got a hacksaw and a crowbar and a hammer. Says, where is that tooth you need out? Wait, where'd you go to school? So I read the book. Hey, I got a dentistry book. Cost me $60. Are you going to let him work on you? How? Otherwise, I'm opening a dentist shop. Temple could use some money, You go, wait a minute, Where'd you get your degree? Where'd you go to school? Who taught you? So you need the book, and you need a teacher. And so that's guru, sadhus are the teachers. And you can study. This is where field study comes in. What are their characteristics? What are their qualities? What is it? Samodamas tapasocham. There's a whole section in Bhagavad Gita. Are they honest? Are they truthful? Do they have control of their senses? Are they compassionate? What is the caliber of the person? Just because they got a PhD? I don't want to get into it. I don't want to mention names, but I went to see a PhD one time. It's a long story. We were getting some reviews for our books, and the guy was completely drunk. He's one of the top Sanskrit scholars in the world. The guy was so drunk, he said, "I'm sorry, come back tomorrow." It's true. And we found out later on he was arrested he was playing around with his students. Yeah, the lady students. So what's the character of this person I'm hearing from? So you want to hear, first off, you need the book. And then you need you need sadhus, you need saintly people who've realized. What is it? Tadviri paripatena? What is the last line? I don't want to take everyone's time. But those who've seen the truth, they've actually seen the truth. That's who you want to hear from. And then the last thing in that, equation is guru. You need a personal teacher. You need someone who's right there. Not only, the body that have built up and explain the knowledge, but someone to personally guide you. And if we have guru, a personal teacher to train us, and if we study the lives and words of sadhus, saintly realized persons, and we have the Shastra, the revealed instructions from the designer of existence, of creation, that's how we actually get knowledge. That not blindly stumbling around with these false senses. So we should in there, but the point is that rather than why do we do it? We've always done it that way. Why do you believe this? Well, somebody told me. At least we should be open to Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. And that's it. And that's what we do. We've got our books, and you can read it and try it at home. What do they call it? A free home demonstration or money back guarantee. If you I'll give you two simple examples. 3. and I'll be quick because we got 3 minutes, from the words from the Vedas as explained by great saintly persons. This comes from the Bhagavatam. And there are 3 simple examples. It's a different type of learning. It's not just the accumulation of, random facts and figures, but it's character building, and consciousness expanding. Because the way I was speaking the other day at some temple, and, I'm sitting here droning on, and as I was looking out, I saw one lady lean forward, and she was feeling the lady in front of her what her sari was. Was it silk? Is it satin? Is it polyester? Well, she just cheap poly, There was another guy. He had, I thought it was an old-fashioned hearing aid, something in his pocket. And he had, something going up to him. I thought it was a hearing. Turns out he was listening to some soccer game. So, one lady, although physically here, she was experiencing reality. She was fashion conscious. The guy with whatever he had in his pocket, he was not spiritually conscious. He was sports conscious. I could go on and on. We were doing a play one time, and devotees dressed up as police came into the, acting in the temple room, burst through the doors and say, nobody moved. 2 guys got up and shot out the door. So what are they up to? Obviously they had something on their mind. Guilty conscience. So it's a true story. So my point is, same reality, same sensory experience, but somebody's off in the fashion world, somebody's off in the sports world, somebody's a crook about to pick your pocket. So all over the place. So consciousness, our knowledge base, determines how we experience this world. It determines our character. It determines our happiness. So it matters. What's in our head and where we get it creates our experience. And if we want to be happy, if we want to do genuine good, we got to have it. We got to have real knowledge. So I just want to give you a few quick examples. It's a different type of learning. And it's one saint is speaking to his disciple. What can we learn from a mountain? It's kind of an open answer, so it's a little unfair to ask. What we can learn from a mountain is a mountain gets pounded on. When a storm comes, you ever been in the mountains, especially if you're on the, what do they call it, the watershed side? The clouds back up, they're pounding on the mountain, lightning. Does the mountain back up, say, oh, wait a minute, Does it get, gradually pushed back to Las Vegas? Whatever, these mountains here. It stands. It stands and it tolerates. If the mountain could know. The mountain knows it's temporary. I just stand and I tolerate, and this will pass. I don't give up my principles. I don't give up my values. I tolerate. That's one thing we can learn from a mountain. Similar example. What can we learn from a tree? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, uses Trinadapi Sunichena, Toreva Sehishna. What can we learn from a tree? Very good. Tolerance. Why? Does it ever say, I'm done with this. I'm going inside, Catch me later, It tolerates. It tolerates. And Prabhupada points out, and this example, it's in the, I think the 11th canto, but it gives the example that not only does the tree stand there and tolerate, but it gives it shade. It doesn't say, hey, I don't want to be graphic, but let's say this. Hey, you carved your name on me the other day. I'm not giving you any shade. It selflessly gives shade. It gives its fruit. It gives its flowers. So not only does it tolerate, it doesn't discriminate. It gives charity unlimitedly, indiscriminately, universally compassionate. That's something we can learn from a tree. What's something we can learn from the ocean? That's a big one. But the ocean is, sometimes you see white caps, it's stormy, it's hurricane, so many things happening. What do they call it? Not a hurricane, what do they call it? Is it called a hurricane? What's it called on the ocean? Typhoon. Yeah, typhoon or tsunami. Tsunami's the water. I think hurricane in the west and typhoon in the east. But anyway, the point is you can imagine. But if you dive down, deep, 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 deep down, it's completely calm. It's only on the surface that it's so deeply disturbed. So one who's in deep spiritual consciousness, so many things are happening in this world. So many problems, so many issues, so many things to get agitated about. But one who's very deep in consciousness, they're peaceful, they're sober, they're steady. That's something we can learn from the ocean. Another example, this one's from Gita, but it's also quoted in this. You've got so many rivers enter into the ocean, right? I mean, think about it. I mean, if I had this cup, and I get a little pitcher, I mean, just a small pitcher, and I pour it here, water, what will happen? It'll overflow, isn't it? It'll spill all over the place. Now, let's take the ocean. Let's suppose we're standing in the tidal basin, whatever it's called, in the tidelands. The ocean is doing its thing. It comes in a certain amount with the tidal flow, excluding moon tides, even with a moon tide. It only comes so far, a small amount, But if we think about how much water via the rivers is pouring into the ocean, I mean, Google it. I don't get a commission on that. That comes to mind, because if it's on Google, it must be true. But you can get a picture of the Amazon where it flows out into the Atlantic, and it turns the blue Atlantic. So much water is pouring out of the Amazon River that for miles, I think it's like 3 or 4 miles off the coast of Brazil, the water's brown because of all the dirt and silt. Can you imagine how much water is pouring into that? And you've got the Nile, you've got the Ganga, you've got the Congo River, you've got so many rivers flowing into the ocean. I mean, we can't even estimate how much water, and yet it just stays steady. It stays within its... So the example is that in this world there's going to be trouble. That's the nature of this place. So many problems and issues are going to flow in, you can't stop it. But one who has knowledge, he's steady. He doesn't get agitated or overflow. So if we can meditate on these simple examples, I mean, in life's difficulties, if we meditate on these simple examples, it gives us so much relief and so much which direction to go in and so many things. So we will in now. But rather than stick to what we've always done and thinking the way we've always done it without genuinely inquiring, what is this knowledge based on? And from it all my values. What is how to get real transcendental knowledge? Is it there, and how to get it? And therefore you read Bhagavad Gita, you practice it, you hear from saintly people, and each of us will realize it and become happy in this world. Okay, now we can end. We can become happy by chanting and having a nice feast. Thank you for sitting so patiently. Hare Krishna.